and every one of you has chosen a particular path that will determine your responsibilities once we have arrived on Nexus. It is important that you are well informed of the imminent dangers, despite the fact that you will actually survive. Let us proceed. Soldiers, legendary heroes in the making. Your mission will be to conquer the deadly creatures, hostile natives, and military opponents you encounter on the planet's surface. Will there be glory for some of you? Indeed. For others. Scientists, for you, knowledge is the ultimate weapon. As you delve into the scientific mysteries of the Elden, you will systematically analyze the exotic flora and fauna found on the planet. Unfortunately, most of it will be trying to eat you. At least your deaths will be for a noble cause. Explorers, such a bold and adventurous group. Prepare yourselves to chart this wild new frontier, braving some of the most dangerous and inaccessible locations on planet Nexus. Undoubtedly, you think this sounds exciting. Please provide your next of kin before departure. And settlers, dedicated builders and pioneers. Your duty is to tame this hostile alien world, constructing beneficial structures for your friends and allies. Understandably, your enemies may not appreciate your efforts. Oh, that was unfortunate. So, as you can see, the choice of your path brings with it a number of challenges. Fortunately for those of you who are looking for a way out, I have a different alternative. Any takers?
Get out! Get out!
Class dismissed.
User disconnected from your channel. User joined your channel. User joined your channel. User disconnected from your channel. User joined your channel.
Howdy! It looks like I am going to be the one to tell you about the exiles. You see, normally they don't let me do this kind of thing on account of my mouth running where it ain't supposed to, and I'm just so excited! I think I might wet my britches. Uh-oh.
User joined your channel.
Okay, y'all know about the Dominion, right? Well, them bastards like to cause trouble. If they ain't starting a war on your planet, then they're probably blockading it with their starships or ravaging it with their freaking machines. Anyway, since a bunch of us got run off our home worlds, we figured it'd be a good idea to join forces, and that's how the exiles came to be. The end. Huh? You want me to keep going? Okay. You asked for it. Let me tell you about us. Humans, that is. We are stubborn folk. Ain't the kind to back down from a fight. And no, we ain't inbred. Most of us, anyway. Then there's the Orin. You might call them scrappy. Protectors of nature and the like. They also got these big furry ears and tails. Some people are into that. Yeah, I know. Weird. These folks here, well, it might be best if we just don't talk about them. Finally, we got the Braddock. They're big, tough, giant rock people. I mean, they are badass. Of course, most of them got more boulders than brains. Yep, that means just what it sounds like. I'm sure you know about the planet Nexus. Well, one of us exiles found it, and now we're all heading there to make it our new home. Trouble is, the Dominion showed up and they're trying to take it from us. You know what I say? Those stiff-necked, knee-bending bastards want to fight? Then bring it on! Oops, you okay? I think that went pretty well. Right? Right?
Hello there. It appears that it has fallen to me to tell you about the Dominion. And as your luck would have it, I am by far the most qualified individual to do so. Shall we begin? Oh, about 1,600 years ago, the humans of planet Cassus were chosen by the Elden to establish a star-spanning empire. And since that time, through intimidation, political intrigue, and a score of impressive military conquests, the Dominion now exists as a shining example of strength and leadership for the rest of the pathetic vermin that infest the galaxy. Enough history. To the heroes of the Empire. The Dragon. Savage warriors. Fearless on the field of battle. Not exactly the most refined chaps. But I wouldn't say that to their face. Mechari. Advanced robots engineered by the Elden themselves. Deadly assassins and super agents. A sense of humor? A bit lacking, I'm afraid. And not going to talk about this one. Lastly, there are the Cassians. My people. Without whose continued courageousness, ambition, and stalwart leadership, the Dominion would undoubtedly crumble. I suppose I would be remiss if I did not mention the ongoing conflict with the so-called exiles on planet Nexus. Not to say that this ragtag alliance of refugees, rebels, and mercenaries poses any real threat. They just need a healthy dose of Dominion galactic diplomacy. Have I made myself clear? Good. I certainly hope so. Can someone get me a drink? Something expensive.
Hey, Sarge, have fun babysitting the ship.
Securing perimeter.
These life forms are for studying, not target practice.
Listen, lady, I'm just trying to do my job here, not join the flower patrol.
Every life on this planet is precious. Except that one.
Had to go and touch it. Hey!
Back already?
And you made friends.
Shut up and kill something.
I'm starting to like this place.
Oh boy!
Good afternoon / evening, everybody. We'll be starting in about a minute or two, so just get ready.
I'm Phineas T. Rotostar, and today I'd like to talk to you about home. Home. A place to put your feet up. A place to hang your hat. A place that, thanks to years of research by Protostar Corporation, has a statistically insignificant chance of killing you. We here at Protostar would like to interest you in a new home, on a new world. The planet Nexus. Yes, Nexus. Planet of mystery, world of excitement. Where'd it come from? No idea. But thanks to Protostar, bam, you can put a house on it. Feel the adventure of clearing your land. The pride of building your home. The freedom to make it your own.
All right, everybody.
That's not all.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today for our first ever European Wildstar Town Hall. As you may have heard, last night's NA meeting went rather well, and I'm hoping this one will go just as well. Before we begin, I'd like to start by introducing our volunteer moderators. First is myself, so Nixus, member of Late Night Dominion and Subterfuge Vanguard. And next we have Pseudonym.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Pseudonym, a very proud member of Enigma, an EU guild. My job today is to ensure that everyone gets a chance to speak. So, as we go through each of these new topics and we bring up a discussion, please let me know if you want to have the floor by sending me a private message. Just right-click on my name, Pseudonym, and send me a message saying, I'd like to chime in. You don't have to tell me specifically what you want to chime in, but just let me know you want to say something. And then when I call on you, you can pretty much have the floor.
Thank you very much, Pseudonym. So the purpose of this meeting today is to bring all of you guys together to discuss community events, guilds, fan sites, the game, and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, again, thank you very much for being here. The moderators, so myself and Pseudonym, will be introducing general topics, so, PvE, PvP, in a certain order so that we can, have you elaborate on those, but stay on topic. During the discussions, we'll leave everybody unmuted, so, you have your chance to talk if you want. Simply send, the message to Pseudonym to have the floor. Please try to be respectful of one another. When topics do kind of get heated, it's hard to hold back, but, let's be polite. Any breaking of NDA will be immediately followed by your removal from the server, so please don't. I really don't want to have to use the ban hammer. We'll start by having everybody introduce themselves in order, based on the order you're on TeamSpeak. And our first topic will probably be, let's see here.
Community events and things of the like.
Events. Perfect. Thank you very much, Pseudonym. So prepare your thoughts ahead of time, and let's get started. Howitzer.
Hi, yeah, I'm Howitzer. I'm the guild leader and founder of Heresy Gaming Community.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us this evening. Issel?
Yeah, my name is Issel. I'm a community officer in Heresy Gaming Community.
Wonderful. Thank you. Iko?
Hello, I'm Aiko, GM of Immortals Noctis. I'm just here to sit in and see what everyone has to say.
Thank you for being here. Screenager.
Thank you. My name's Screenager. I am a community lead officer in General Dog's Body and Afterlife Gaming. We're a PvP-based gaming community. We've been around since about 2009, and some of you know, some of you don't, but hopefully we'll meet some more of you when Wildstar launches.
Thank you. Evil.
Hi, I'm an Evil Hot Dog. Just sitting in, hope to listen and maybe add to the conversation a little bit.
Thank you for being here. Mispa.
Hello folks, I'm Mispa, lucky enough to be GM of Enigma. We've been around since about 2005 and are currently getting very ready for Wildstar.
As are we. Ayura?
Hello everyone, I'm Aora. Please don't find the name misleading. Some people do tend to think I'm actually female, but I can assure you I'm not. I'm just here to take notes for my guild and look forward to meeting all of you.
Thank you for joining us. Yaxan.
Hi, I'm Yaxan here. I'm now here to represent with Ayora errant unit, and thank you for bringing me back here, and so I can rant on for ages and ages. Okay, I'll stop now.
We enjoy your rants, Yaxan. Here we go. Heaps good. Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Heaps Good. I'm GM of Rugged, and I hope we all have a good time in Wildstar.
Thank you for being here. Fox?
Hey, I'm Fox. I'm the raid leader for Rugged, and I've been warned by the guild not to be too annoying or they'll beat me up.
Well, you don't want to get beat up now, so... Blank space, go ahead. All right, great. Sarah Serenity, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Sarah Serenity. I'm representing the admin team from Warplots, a community site basically devoted to everything Warplot related, including streaming and various articles on both the theory crafting and the practical side.
Thank you very much for joining us. Ender?
I am Ender, and I'm one of the admins over at Wildstar Roleplay. So I'm here with with Patricia to talk about everything and connect to you guys. Yay!
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. Patrician.
Hi, I'm Patrician. I'm the worst half of Ender, and I'm also here to talk to you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. Normally we're going to be North American, but we're in the process of moving, and we had net problems last night, so we're here for the European meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, just quick jump in, Ender. I do believe that you are using voice activated. It's so weird hearing myself talk at the same time.
If you don't mind switching over to push to talk, please.
That would be wonderful.
Once you have, send me a message and I will unmute you. Perfect. So thank you for introducing each other. I do believe that was everybody. So we're going to go ahead and proceed. We'll start by introducing our first topic. Again, if you want to make a comment, ask a question, whatever it may be, send your message to Pseudonym. and we'll give you the floor. So as I said earlier, our first topic of discussion this evening is community events. And you may elaborate however you wish on that topic. And just one last note, we will try to limit each topic to about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how popular they are, simply to make sure we're not here for the next 2 days, because there is a lot to say.
Right. Does anyone particular wish to start about community or community events or anything along those lines? Go ahead, Aiko.
Yeah, I just had this idea appear to me like right this second, but how about for raiding guilds, because we know the raids are going to flip about and change up every week with the different configurations. Different raiding guilds on different servers could put together a little bit of a community pot of whatever the currency turns out to be, and the winner of that week could then take that money and spread it out between their guild as like a little server sort of wide bet week on week. It's just an idea I had as sort of like an event.
Are you thinking like in-game currency, or are you talking about real-life money?
In-game currency, obviously not real-life betting, but you know, between once you start raiding, guilds should be able to become quite wealthy quite quickly. So you know, this pot of money could become quite a serious deal, and become just an extra level for guilds to push each other.
Just have like a weekly pot almost.
Yeah. So say like every week you put in 2,000 credits. So I don't know. Obviously, we don't know what inflation and how valuable each piece of gold will be. But every guild will put in, say, like 1,000 or 2,000, and then the winner of that week for whichever raid or raid bracket would then take that pot and share it out however they want. Maybe buying more stuff for their war plot, things like that.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, just to really pick up from what Aiko was just saying, at War Plots, what we are looking to do is to actually put together a series of community leagues for War Plots specifically, although we haven't really pushed that forward openly, partly because we don't really know how things like the servers are going to really operate or how the War Plot matches are going to work. But we would also like to see the same basis that Aiko suggested for raiding expanded to War Plots, so we have a league of War Plots and the winner for a particular month gets a pot of in-game cash. But we would also, of course, we're partly trying to work out what the game mechanics are going to be. We have had it confirmed that there isn't going to be a spectator mode. So we're going to look at dual streaming or dual casting, but we would like to put that forward as well with Eco's concept of the raiding, essentially, league.
Issel, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea. I think it lends itself more to a PvP environment than a PvE environment. I think the leaderboards that we've heard are forthcoming for PvE will in my opinion suffice in terms of a competition level. Also, it'll be hard to implement because you have X amount of guilds on whatever server they choose. As an idea, I think it's good, but I think it lends itself more to PvP.
Go ahead, Patrician.
Okay, thanks very much. I think that what I would most like to talk about as far as events go and community is I'm wondering what the community in general would like the role-playing community to do with their events, because we always have role-playing events and we're definitely going to have a calendar set up on our website. And what I guess I'd like to know is, I know there are a lot of non-role players who like to attend the events to watch, and I want to know if we should advertise on WildStar Central specifically, and maybe I'll have to speak with Zap about this, or if we'll just post it on our site and expect people will notice.
I just say to advertise wherever possible, you know, have the sort of street team mentality. Like if there's an event you really want to promote, you know, don't, you know, hesitate to, you know, talk to like WildStar Central or even Late Night Dominion or other podcasts if you like want to advertise and see what they can do to facilitate it.
Good, that's great, because that's exactly kind of what I would love to do. I would love to make us as out there and integrated with everyone as possible.
Heaps good. You have the floor.
Thanks. Yeah, I would like to do like for open world PvP. I mean, they said there won't be much open world PvP except like community-driven or player-driven. And I know we have war plots for guild versus guild, but what would be really cool, like 20 man versus 20 man, or like guild versus guild, and you decide how much people you bring in, and do like a battle on an open field, and make like a tournament out of it. That would be something. It would be really awesome if we could arrange something on the server that we choose, if some guilds are interested in it. Like we used to do it, and for example, in Guild Wars 2 or in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and it was always great fun.
Fox, you have the floor.
Thanks for that. Just to follow up on what Phil was saying, I'm not sure if any of you ever played EVE Online, but they had a similar event that's been running for years now, where they'll do a tournament. They'll just host it out in the middle of space. They'll have a prize pot built up, so everyone that wants to enter chucks in some in-game currency, and it's just basically a big PvP event that people run together, and you could have hundreds of thousands of people turn up to that just because it's open world and anyone can turn up. And it should be dead easy if it's open world to limit it to either 1v1s or 5v5s, things like that.
Okay, another direction within community. Go ahead, Mizpah.
Thank you, Suda. Obviously, we don't know server structures, setups, or anything similar, but one area when the community at large can communicate is online and via web. We do a ton of work with our website, enigmaguild.org, but we're writing tools to support it. So it's a twofold question. Is there anything people would like to see created on a website that they could either put on their own guild site or see a central repository of some function? And is there anything people need for web or could use web and technology for? I guess the offer is out there to say we're happy to create and provide free of charge to anyone as long as it's reasonable for us to do so. As an example, there's modules that have been created for recruitment that are specific to Wildstar, would be the first one that would spring to mind.
Can I just jump in on this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, at Mitzpah, we're in the process of creating a website too. I think you're using Drupal as well. And we're also working on, like one of our guild members wrote a recruitment module as well for the site. So we can like talk about it sometime or whenever if you want. But I'm really into all those stuff too, especially when they release the API.
Absolutely love to. Happily share stuff. Perhaps those people who are interested in web, tech, PHP, Drupal, perhaps ought to touch base at some other point in time to save boring everyone else. But there's probably a ton of tools we can jointly release for the community as a whole.
Okay. Anyone else want to bring anything up specific about community events or ideas?
Yeah, I'll chime in one thing. There's, I'm going to actually make a story about it. I mentioned before because such branching. I've mentioned my whole in-game newsletter kind of thing. I think, community events would be something that would be really neat to have in this in-game tool where the server community can announce their events and be promoted that way. So that's something I'm going to elaborate in a forum post, but I just want to let everyone know that that's an idea I've been mixing around in my head.
Okay, some others seem to want to chime in. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, just one thing about community events, but not so much community events in game, but I was thinking more about community events that we can have as a community before launch. One thing I think would be kind of nice to do with the community is to do the sort of the similar things that we're currently all doing with our guilds, but also we've done with, for example, to celebrate Zap Robot's birthday and various other events such as the charity event, is to have something like some community Team Fortress 2 or Planet Side 2 conflicts, which are always quite good fun. How do people feel about it? Do you think it's a good idea as a community that we try to organise those sorts of things?
I will leave the floor open for anyone who wishes to respond.
And I'll bounce a comment in. I have to chuckle at TF2 because Enigma are busy playing that at the moment, while myself and Pseudo sit here. We run a weekly night, but I'd have to say it's a great idea, perhaps not with weekly frequency, say fortnightly or monthly, to put up a schedule somewhere. Wildstar Central would seem to be the most common location shared by the most people, and perhaps get some cross-guild activity or competition going on.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just say I can enter Enigma for that now if there's any other takers. Of course, it will take someone sort of taking the lead and organising. So I guess that will throw in another question, and this is a how do people feel? What do people in the community feel the balance is between guilds doing lots of things and perhaps coming across as just being very loud in the community versus things perhaps not being organised?
I think that once we kind of get in-game stuff going on, it will kind of even out. You know, once you see what guild you truly want to be a part of, and you know which ones represent themselves in a good way, and do either PvP or PvE related things. Whoever gets X achievement first for downing a boss or something. I think that won't really be an issue once that happens.
I'd like to chime in about what you mentioned about the sort of or guilds, perhaps seeming like swinging their weight around, stuff like that, because there's something that I had to talk to, especially related to this event, is I think the kind of misconception is that, when people are starting these events, they seem like they're trying to try to make themselves seem big. It's not that they're really trying to do that. They're trying to promote, events such as this. I think the fault is more like that the other communities aren't doing enough effort to, host these events themselves. I'm not saying that, doing anything wrong, but I just, thinking back after like helping with this event or anything like that, I was like, well, maybe Errant Unit should organize, try to organize some sort of event, like, a community event and advertise, and other guilds should perhaps do the same, because they're equally as able to do this, same things as what's been going on now. I mean, nothing is stopping them. It's just just join in on the fun rather than hide away.
About the Team Fortress 2 nights, like I hardly recognize the Sepp Robust Burster Bash. Like I don't follow Wildstar Central like regularly, or I'm not online every day, so it's kind of hard. I know Subterfuge Vanguard hosts a gaming night every now and then, but for it's all North American, I guess. But if someone like creates an event for Team Fortress 2 for the EU time zone, I think I will talk about it in my guild, but I think a few guys might join in on this. So.
Cool. I mean, that's what I was proposing. Really, is nothing to try to big people up, as it were. It's just something to try and develop the sense of community that we have. And yeah, do something informal. I'm quite happy to volunteer to start trying to organise nights when we can try and just get a group of us together to play TF2.
Go ahead, Screenager.
Cool, thank you. Just wanting to respond to the current thread. Really, in that I think what you'll find is one of the bigger issues about pre-release community events is lack of consistency. It's great that people want to move stuff forward and people want to contribute to the community, but one of the best community events has been SFG's their attempts to kind of bring people together and have kind of semi-regular gaming nights. What they do is they're building a consistent series of events that people are coming back to, and while everyone wants to necessarily help the community bond, that almost sporadic nature of the community at the moment is, I wouldn't say it's unhelpful, because that's probably not the right word for it, but it doesn't have the same gravity that consistent nights like SVGs do at the moment, and it would be great to see people within the community sitting down and kind of working out a consistent series of events rather than a number of one-off ideas being thrown around, if that makes any sort of sense to anyone.
Blank Space, you wanted to chip in?
I did want to just make note of one thing here. There were a lot of people that came forward with concerns about any sort of events being set up by us, and we cleared up a lot of misconceptions between PMs and on TeamSpeak and whatnot. And when it comes to things like this, whether it's a Sunday game night where we get together and drink, and it does happen to match a North American time zone and not a European one, what we're trying to do is, while we have a very active and dedicated core community, we're trying to just continue doing activities that represent the kind of community we'd like to be and be a part of. So I'd love to see the EU guys, because it's daytime for us, pick up and be like, hey, a TF2 night or a PlanetSide night sounds fun for us. We might do something like that. And if anybody's interested in how we set things up, how we organize them, how we do anything like that, Nixus will hate me for saying it, but his email is always open on Wildstar Central, and so is mine. So if anybody ever has questions about trying to organize these sort of things, doing events and things like that, we're always here to help out. Thank you.
And I may be able to throw this into the mix. I believe, as someone just said a moment ago, they'd be very happy to organise some events. Perhaps you could get 2 or 3 of us, get a core group and say, we'll organise and commit to saying, right, we'll do 1 event a week for 10 weeks. Perhaps that's the way to do so. What I suppose we may be able to do to help with that, we could quickly produce some sort of page, scoreboard, advertising thing, but make it possible for anyone to put it on their website. So it's not associated with any one entity, it's just a central place where the data sits.
Just to step in real quick, excuse me, pseudonym, we are at the 5-minute away mark from ending this topic, so if you have any last-minute thoughts, throw them now, and we'll be moving topics. Thank you.
Well, let's try and turn talk into action if no one objects. Serenity, I believe it was yourself that came up with the idea in the first place?
Yes, yeah. But I'm very happy to put a team together. Of course, it makes my life so much easier if there's a group of us.
Well, let's see if we can get 3. I'm more than happy to help you organise it. Perhaps one more voice could pipe up, and then we'll have a chat and we'll get it done. Perhaps 1 event a week for 10 weeks to pick something out of thin air with some consistency attached to it.
Oh, you wanted to speak up?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I would be more than happy to join in and help organise the events.
Then, for want of filling a space, I think that's 3. Okay, quick and easiest way to do this and not take over channel. I'm just going to stick my email in here because I'm really not worried about sharing it. Perhaps we could fire a mail and work something out.
Sarah, I do believe you wanted to say something?
No, it's okay. Sorry, no, I was just going to do the same, but Miss beat me to it.
Okay. Alrighty, so if you have any last comments to make, please speak up. If not, we'll go ahead and transition. Our next topic of the evening is going to be housing. So if you wish to participate, please again send your request to pseudonym and we'll give you the floor. And again, you can elaborate as much as you want on the topics that we bring up. Don't hesitate.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak about housing at all? Anything about this new feature from Wildstar?
I would like to talk. I mean, it's more like a question, but yeah. Does anybody know if housing is prevented to your is connected to your account, or can you have a house for every twink?
It's character specific, not account specific. So you can have one house per character, but not one house per account.
They confirmed on Wildstar Central, I can't remember which dev it was, but they also posted that your characters will be able to go into each other's houses, so you can have your new character go into your mains account, mains house with all the buffs and trade stations and things like that if you want it to.
Ayora?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up something towards housing. In one of the featured videos, we saw that friends could take care of our crops and ward off bandits, etc. But I was wondering if anyone had any ideas on what would happen if you couldn't have someone cover you. So would there be a possibility of you losing buildings or plugs, as they call them?
I think that if you don't give anyone else access to your house, I believe that the mobs or whatever, or the plants, whatever you're farming, would probably just stay as it were when you left, and it spawned when somebody enters or something like that, as opposed to just going ham on your house and you come back to nothing. It doesn't seem like a good a good way to have that.
Yeah, I'm a believer on that one. I think they're just going to stay there, and when you return, they're still going to be there. If you don't do anything about it, it's just going to be a massive inconvenience for you whenever you join in. I don't think they're going to destroy anything. That'll be quite detrimental to go on a holiday and find everything you build up over a couple of months destroyed by something you have no control over.
Well, if you don't mind me chipping in, actually, from a purely PvP point of view, I would love that. I would actually love if players in organised guilds on PvP servers, whether it's restricted to PvP servers, fair enough. If guilds or warbands ended up having to defend people's houses because you could pick someone you really didn't like and blow their house up while they were away, and you had to put the effort in to defend your own house. I mean, at the end, that would be fantastic from my point of view. At the end of the day, you pick a PvP server, you know what you're getting. If that sort of thing was enabled in PvP servers, where you could potentially come back, and if you didn't buy a massive space cannon, then your house is going to end up having a wall missing, no roof, something like that.
Drunk at the helm and crash your spaceship into your own house.
You do that. Maybe.
Patrician?
Yeah, I just got one thing. I'm not sure if this was brought up last night, but it's something that the role players have been asking me. They want to know if we're going to have the ability to at all interact with the books in our house, and if we'll be able to write in those books or leave messages for people and stuff like that. And I do know that it's important to us that obviously this is something that the devs just might not get to, and they might not be able to put in. But if we have the ability to maybe do this in the code of whatever LUA system they're using for an add-on, that would be amazing too.
I don't know if it's in, but if it isn't in, it should be in. I think it would be an awesome idea to do a what to do list if you leave your house to someone. I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I sincerely doubt it's in there, but it's definitely something that should be looked at some point.
Or if even if that's not in, just like that you can write on signs, kind of like the Minecraft thing where you can put stories or notes on signs, something like that. I was wondering about.
Yeah, definitely. Like a watch the dog kind of sign outside your door. Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, to be honest.
One cool thing I remembered about with housing is an idea that actually I read in the most horrible places called 4chan, and that was due to housing having objects having collision, and perhaps I don't know how big the houses, the interiors can get, but like I believe they mentioned that they're able to make a second floor just due to the collision. One of the things you could possibly do is make sort of maze or obstacle course within the house, and the example given that I found in that one post was recreating an area from Dark Souls called Sen's Fortress, just with a bunch of traps and stuff like that. And if you reach the end, you might get a prize. So I think that's something. It would be really cool if the housing plot is powerful enough to provide that kind of outlet for creativity.
Aiko, you have the floor.
Thank you. I was just going to say something. It's ever so slightly off topic, but regarding to what Patricia just said about being able to, put content on signs, I'm not sure how many of you here actually played Aeon, but that game allowed you to upload a small guild logo that appeared on all your members' capes, or I can't remember what the other one. I've forgotten the name of the faction. Never mind. The Asmodean's got like a shoulder cloak kind of stripe. What do people think about being able to do that in Wildstar?
It all depends on how they optimize it, because if you've got a bunch of images uploading from a server for different guilds, depending on how many the guilds there are, it could slow it down a fair bit.
The weird thing is, having played Ion ourselves as well, it's something that I actually desperately want in any game we go into now, to be able to put the guild's custom logo back up on guild related stuff. So I'd actually really love to be able to get that, allow players to stick that on their houses or their own related stuff.
Yeah, same. So I've always enjoyed that. We did Aeon as well, had our own emblem. Also in Pirates of the Burning Sea, we've got our own sails and everything. Hopefully for any kind of customization like that.
Wara?
Yes, I just wanted to add to the Ion Cape comment. I think allowing guilds and possibly circles to have their own minor feature for customization kind of gives you that sort of your more unique feel, whereas a lot of games don't actually apply that feature. I think that would be something that would give us a lot more enjoyment and some form of community within our guild, because we feel rather unique for having something like that.
Sarah?
Yes, I just wanted to pick up this point that we were talking about uploading customized logos. For example, both Terra and Arcade enable you to do just this. Now, I know that some of the remarks that came back when we've talked about this in Twitter was about how it would be abused, and it's right. In Terra, they had to disable the feature because it was being abused by people putting up, shall we say, indecent images. But for example, in Arcade, a more modern game, you can actually upload your own artwork as a picture to put on the walls of your house. And what they have adopted is quite a fast system for actually going around and scanning images for anything that's obscene. And in terms of the overhead that it puts on the optimal, you don't even notice it. I mean, I've been looking at in Korea with second ping overhead on that, and it does enable you to create some really nice individual statement pieces.
Issel?
I definitely think it's a good idea. Like how it's said, we did it in Aeon and part of the Burning Sea as well. I think like Sarah also mentioned, I mean, there's a huge pitfall for doing vulgar things. I believe Aeon was a developer moderated like to look what was what, and how to correct me if I'm wrong. This wasn't part of the Burning Sea to a degree made up by players. Checking into it as well.
There's people had a upvote on a forum. I believe there's also a player-based moderation crew that used to go through all as well.
Yeah. Because I can see the issue being that they would say, well, it's a huge amount of work going through all these images, but if you could set up some kind of community-based scanning group or whatever, that would probably make it easier for them and probably make them more acceptable for implementing it.
Anything else involving housing and things of the like?
Alrighty. If you have any last comments to make, this is the time to do so. If not, we'll be transitioning to the next topic. We'll be limiting to about 30 minutes as well. We'll be talking about the social aspect around Wildstar, so guilds, grouping, towns. Now, if this is something that you feel ties into housing, we can always move on to the subject after that, which would be economy and crafting. If you wish to make a comment, please send a message to pseudonym.
Still waiting. Anything anyone wishes to bring up about that?
About social, I guess it's time for me then.
Hold on 1 second, Jackson.
Oh, it's okay.
Someone
Okay.
got in right before you said something.
That's okay. Please, someone else go before me.
Disregard that.
Okay, well, actually, it was someone else. So, Mispa, you have the floor.
Sorry, guys. Essentially, a lot of this will come down to giving people the tools to create community. And I guess we need to identify what community is, and that's something people can identify with and something people can brand and associate with. So a lot will come down to mechanics. I guess just the comment is just to hope these mechanics are deep and meaningful, that they extend to things like APIs to extract data from a guild. They extend to being able to set good granular permissions on banks so you can open up access. But there are a host of tools and quality of life things that could be built into the game to make life easier for those people who are trying to run communities. I probably could come up with a list off the top of my head, but I'd like to ask what people think of straight away in terms of what buttons would you like on the Manage Guild, Manage Social? What features do you think need to exist in and around the things we know about for the game?
One idea I saw somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but some years ago was being able to. It's like similar to what Guild Wars 2 has in terms of that your account is connected to the guild rather than just a single character. But just having with that is being able to see the different alts on one person's, like rather than having a roster filled with different alts, just have it under have one character sort of main and have as a note or sort of sidebar something that extends from that. It'll be showing their list of alts, something like that.
Yeah, I do think that would be a good idea, and I'm sure even at some point, as far as if they support extensions and as far as that goes, they could maybe do something like that too, or add-ons.
I think I'd agree with the alts comment. If I put my guild hat on, it's great to know that the person who just applied to the guild called Bob is or is not Trolley McTroll, who you see doing nasty things in public channels all the time. Because for my part, if people are behaving in certain ways on an alt, I'd like to keep them out the guild and any other character associated with them.
Definitely, if I can chime in with Ms. there. Just don't want bad, toxic players ever in any guild ever.
I think what this comes down to is having good tools that allow a decent level of transparency and a decent level of control for what are essentially going to be warbands and guilds that are available. While we're all talking about being able to see accounts, inevitably one of the big gripes within Guild Wars 2 is that although accounts are linked to your guild, people can have however many alts they've paid for at that time, and trying to keep track of which character, which account off the top of your head is just insanely difficult when you start getting into large numbers. Bob 1, 2, and 3 is actually Jeff, account Jeff. That's very difficult, and I think that having that level of transparency in front of you on either an API or an in-game panel, along with other good utilities that can allow you to see other vital information at easy glance, that being things like last logged in, hours played, where someone is, that sort of things, makes life a lot easier to build those sort of communities rather than having to spend time running admin on spreadsheets and turning the gaming time of someone who's trying to build these communities into essentially just an administrative duty for 4 hours a night.
Ender, you wish to speak up?
Yeah, sorry. What I'd love to see is an ability to sort of group guilds together, like an alliance sort of. And I'm guessing that circles can help in that, but it could also be a way of like helping each other out with minor stuff, or say for smaller guilds to share a guild chat, perhaps not one guild chat, you'll still have your actual guild chat, but a shared sort of alliance chat perhaps, or just help each other out with minor things. I don't know exactly what guilds will entail. I don't think many of us do yet, but yeah, something where guilds can form alliances maybe between 2 or 3 guilds, or you can as a guild form different alliances with 2 or 3 guilds.
Patrician also wanted to speak up.
It was basically in relation to that. Ender and I hadn't actually discussed it, but we just came up with the same thing. So what I would more be curious about is, I know that they mentioned something about guild housing in a recent interview. We don't know what it entails. We don't know what it's about. I was surprised because I thought that war plots would be the only thing that groups could do together, housing-wise. But I can't wait to find out what that's about. And what I'm more wondering about is with alliances, let's say a very small guild wanted to ally itself to Enigma. And Enigma said, okay, well, we can give you permissions to come see and hang out at our guild house or guild location because you're an ally. And I wonder if they're going to allow that in the game and stuff.
Sarah, I believe you wish to speak up.
Thank you. It's just to come on to just really 2 things. First of all, just to highlight the differences between guilds and war plots. War plots / war parties are actually separate from guilds. So what I would be keen to see is basically exactly the same controls that you have for guilds being accessible on the separate interface for war parties, because of course the issues that you all bring up regarding guild members, not wanting trolley McTroll is exactly the same thing you wouldn't want in a war party. So it would be good if the interface was copied across for the war parties as well.
Ayora? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go.
Okay, Ayora, go right ahead.
Okay, just going back to what Ender said, I think the minor alliance idea is absolutely brilliant. If some of you played the original, the first Guild Wars, there was an alliance system which allowed you to alliance, I think, 7 possible guilds, and then you had your guild chat, and then you had your separate alliance chat, and you also had a form of bracket next to your name just to say what guild you were in. And I think adding something like that into this game would be a brilliant feature, and I was wondering if anyone else agreed with that or disagreed.
Well, I know with that stuff, there's the circles, and the circles could maybe help facilitate exactly that kind of thing. But I think with the alliances, what we're really wondering about from Carbine, and if people would be interested in it, is actual in-game benefits from allying in some form.
Well, surely the in-game benefit should be that the alliance, you're allying with someone because you need their help, so without them you wouldn't be able to do it in the first place.
Yeah,
so,
that's very true.
Not necessarily. Oh, sorry.
Go, Enter, sorry.
Oh, it's fine. No, I just feel like it might be a better thing where it's not something you have to do, but something you do because you're interested in working with other guilds. But well, of course, some benefits, like perhaps you could, I don't know, get access to something you would normally have access to. But I do feel it might be better if it is a more socially based feature.
To me, the usage of alliances comes down to the tools they give you to run an alliance with. It's very easy to say, I'm in alliance with Fred, But for example, can you share data, share a channel, do things with a calendar, find some way to make your gaming choices easier as a result? And that to me would turn it from being something you could organize anyway to something that actually would be useful.
Miz just got in one step before I was about to there. I was about to say exactly the same thing. The difference being, I was going to actually ask if we thought it would be reasonable for in-game alliances to get social interaction utilities, the same sort of ones that that circles will get, for example, like being able to have a cross-alliance chat, because you can have like similar to what Miss was saying, having those levels of social interaction and the ability to communicate or cross the lines turn what is essentially just a couple of people saying we're friends into something that's an entirely different entity. Trying to find, for example, a raid group on a cross alliance chat is infinitely easier than trying to PM the guild lead of someone you're in an abbreviated an alliance with, to try and get them to organise someone for you to come around in the next few days to help you. It entirely changes the game.
Did anyone else wish to speak up?
Okay,
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, fine. I'll mention one of the items on the list. One of the things I would like to see, and this is surprising coming from me, because I'm not much of a supporter for cross-server stuff, and I think some people know about that. But one of the things I actually would like to see is that circles are cross-server. Mostly, so you can support larger gaming communities like Wildstar Central or anything of the like. Just be able to do that. It's also really good because one idea for circles is that you can use them as like for friend groups. Like you might be a part of different guilds, but you will be different with other friends. And this it came from when I was playing World of Warcraft with some friends recently. They're on different servers, but because of all their functionality, we can go between servers and all that, and it was just fine. And I thought circles would be perfect for my friend groups because they're in different guilds. But if you haven't cross server, this functionality will be even more powerful.
Okay, go ahead, Mizpah.
I guess it's a global question for anyone that wants to answer it, because all this stuff about tools focuses on the same thing. What do people find more important, anonymity and privacy, or transparency and trust? Because often these things seem to conflict with each other, depending on design choices that are made.
I was going to say something about that, the sort of play devil's advocate then, is when everyone's talking about, being able to track who's online on what alts, where and when and how. From a guild sort of master perspective, checking up on what people are doing, yes, it's a very great tool. But at the same time, I've been playing Guild Wars 2 and I was giving people pings saying, why are you not repping, I think Bacon was the name of the guild I was running at the time. Why are you not representing us? And they're like, oh, I'm just trying to chill out on my own. So the people like that level of privacy. They paid for the game. Why can't they pay the game on their own at the same time?
Then I'll counter that back, if I may. If you're running a guild in GW2 with those guild mechanics, I feel it's reasonable to make it a tenet of the guild that this is what we're looking for from our members. Perhaps people should behave reasonably and not be able to say one thing and do another. Or am I too optimistic?
No, I believe you. I mean, the guild I ran in, Bacon, isn't the same guild I plan to be running for Wildstar. There was no raiding in Guild Wars 2, so the focus of the guild was much more on a social aspect. And I've stalled for too long. And bugger.
Just to cut in and make a quick comment, we will be arriving at the end of this topic in about 3 to 4 minutes. So wrap things up, we'll be moving topics.
And Sarah, you wanted to have the floor?
Yeah, just briefly to pick up on the points regarding privacy and transparency. I mean, Mispa's right there sometimes is this duality between them that creates a dichotomy in what you're trying to achieve. But I think with the privacy, you're not actually dealing with somebody's actual identity. You're dealing with a in-game persona. And as Mispa pointed out, I mean, if somebody signed up to a guild which has a particular set of tenets in its sort of like ethos, then I think it's, it's reasonable. I mean, if people, if you want to, have your anonymity and not get involved, then I think it's fair to make that known to the guild members up front. But likewise, I think, if you're running a game where cooperation and working as a team is a big component, particularly in large raids, then really if you don't play along with ball, then you ruin everybody's entertainment. So I think it is fair then for guild leads to have that oversight, as it were, of what you're doing in game.
The floor is open for any final comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the topic. Oh, I'll let you go first. Sorry.
Right. I'll just say that's a really tough one, because it's one of those where if you have to know everything your people are doing all the time, I mean, it's I don't know. I'm not too keen on it. I gotta be honest. I think it's all right for a player to have their privacy while gaming. I know I like to have mine once in a while. So I don't know. I'm not too keen on the whole idea, but everybody knows what you're doing all the time. That's what I say.
Before you continue with your comment, Yaxen, Yor wanted to speak up real quick.
I just wanted to add in something about guilds quickly before we go off a social topic. One thing I would like to see in guilds is the feature of last login dates, because I know a lot of people get the issue of inactivity, etc. And one thing a lot of MMOs do use, and is a useful feature in guild lists, is the last log-on date, because obviously you can keep track of the inactives, people who have made it clear that they are going to be inactive, or people who have just dumped an alt in your guild and you don't really know when they're going to come back.
And Yaxen?
Yeah, I want to bring up something I was talking about on IRC earlier, was the idea of community policing. Now, what I mean by this is bringing up the age-old ideas. The one I know the most is the advisors of Rubica for Mannequin Online, having community members be able to volunteer, and have special characters and have like special powers, like be able to teleport, but primarily just to help the community, like perhaps help GMs and guilds set up community events on their server, be able to find new players that might look lost and confused and help them out. And they might be able to get some perks, like for Anarchy Online. I think I'm just, this is just speculation. I believe they got a free game time for it because it was a sub game. But have something like this. But of course, have them, be under. Let the community be able to point out or report to the GMs if these people are abusing their powers. But I thought it would be like really powerful to have, especially when it comes to chat channels like the infamous trade chat or Baron's chats of old, that perhaps they could act as much like I do on RC as an operator to make sure that everyone's being nice. Being able to have the community run these kind of policing activities to build let the community have the tools to build up the community they want, rather than putting it all on GMs, put it on the GM logistics and so forth.
Perfect. On that note, we will be ending this topic. If you have any additional comments to make, I encourage you to take this over to the forums. We definitely want to expand on what we've started here. That said, we'll be talking about economy and crafting for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Those of you who are not aware, we will be calling the meeting in about 2.5 hours, and we're at the end of our first hour. So we've got about an hour and a half to go to talk about PvP, PvE, role-playing, payment model, and the developers if possible.
So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the economy and crafting as a whole in relation to anything we may have discussed, by all means, let me know by sending me a message and I'll give you the floor.
Once again, we are on economy and crafting.
Issel, you have the floor.
I'll start out then. I'm a big fan of crafting having an impact on endgame. and I think they are accommodating that. With the whole modules have to be taken in and out of gear, I presume crafters will be able to make modules as well. Part of the Burning Sea is always the game that comes up when we talk about how a crafting system should be implemented into a game, where a crafter basically can't make anything on his own. He has to get stuff from other crafting professions in order to make really good items. It's not something that's really been done that much since. Every crafting class has pretty much been left to its own devices. I think it'd be really nice to see a crafting system again that where crafters are codependent on each other.
Didn't WoW have a similar system? This might be going all the way back to well, actually no, Wrath of the Lich King definitely had it. You had to transmute those bars, didn't you? Where you had to get the adamantite bars, which were no.
Even in vanilla, there was some, I know for sure.
I mean, it does exist.
True, but we're still talking a very, very basic level. I mean, part of the Burning Seas, we're talking about, like, in order to make a ship, you needed metal from the metal workers, you needed tree from the woodlugger guys. It's like when Powers can go into in much greater detail than I can, but it's a very complex economic system that really, really worked. And I mean, true with the WoW whole thing where you had to transmute bars, but it was like for like 10 items max. This is basically based around the entire crafting system.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that it got simpler and simpler and simpler, and it became a very minor feature as opposed to what you've explained for Pirates of the Burning Sea there. But also with Pirates, you're building a ship. With obviously Wildstar and games like WoW, you're also only meant to be building one piece of armor to fit one human.
Oh, definitely,
humanoid.
I can see that. Like, there would be limits to how complex you can do it.
I think you can make a case for increased complexity is good for a whole raft of reasons. Deep specialization, pride in what people are doing, not to mention the fact it will actually breed community. To have deep codependency at all levels, to me, would make crafting much more meaningful.
And it would make it a lot more social too, which is always a plus.
The floor is still open for anyone who wishes to comment.
Sorry, I'm with you guys. I do like the idea of working together, especially with guild stuff as well, to build maybe cannons for your war plot as a team. That I do like that idea. But hasn't Carbine already come out and said they do want to make content for the solo player? That's why we're getting the little adventures and your solo story to accompany all the social aspects of Wildstar. So I don't know. I think a lot of crafters would quite enjoy sitting there in silence building their little items.
Quite possibly.
I just wouldn't want to see that taken away from a player who really likes to sit there, and especially with the socket and the tinkering system that we seem to be getting in Wildstar, for that to then be taken away unless they go out and get 5 or 6 different mates with different professions to build it for them.
Well, the thing about that is the same people who like to do that usually are the people who like to play the auction house games. And you can make a lot of these things available in your auction house. You can sell your own stuff that other people need, and you can sell, buy the stuff that you need. So you don't necessarily need to have your 5 or 6 friends provide you. Another thing is a lot of these guys like to have multiple accounts. Or not multiple accounts, multiple characters with different crafting stuff. So if you're really into crafting, you can have, 6 different crafters lined up that can provide each other with materials if that's what you really wanted.
As this particular topic can be expanded and this can impact economy, we're actually going to open this topic to reflect the payment model as well. I do believe that we have Mispa who wanted to speak on that.
Yep, I might want to check I'm not stealing Yak's comment again here. I seem to have done it a couple of times. Sorry, Yak. How far should things go in making sure that someone with a very large wallet has got no ability to benefit themselves over other people? within the game environment. There are so many possibilities, and they're all unknown, for buying increased craft XP, buying increased XP, obtaining this item that you can transmute or do something with. A very real fear of mine is trying to really be at the top of your tree, or the most efficient in any given discipline in the game, and crafting's a prime example, could play heavily into a potential microtransaction model, which, as you can guess from my tone of voice, I'm personally against. How separate should the ability to achieve things, or the ability to be efficient, be from the payment model?
Issel, you wanted to speak up on this?
I'm personally not a very big fan of the free to play model, purely based around what you just said. I don't personally think that the whole, if you have a free to play game, the whole buying XP boost, buying crafting boost and stuff like that is fine. But for what I want out of Wildstar, I would much prefer a P2P model. Simply based around, I don't want anyone to be able to buy any advantages. I want it to be a game that's equal for the people who play it. And I'm never a fan of a wallet having to influence how a game's economy or experience of a game is based around how much money you have. I think that's very wrong in general.
Yor wanted to speak up as well.
Yes, I'm also against the buying feature of buying, let's say, charms, shall we call them, of giving, bonus crafting, XP, etc. Because coming from my experience from GSing for area games on Grand Fantasia, area games were a very buy-to-win company, and that's what I don't want to see become of Wildstar, because it's got so much potential. However, I wouldn't like to see the game become completely pay to play. Giving Aeon as an example where players can play for free, but they can unlock other features by paying. I think that would be a really enjoyable option, because it wouldn't cut off the people who are unable to pay to play a game that they are interested in playing.
Aiko, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree with Izzle on and Iora as well now, on the fact that you shouldn't be able to pay to progress your character. I'm okay with free-to-play, say in PlanetSide 2, where they kind of pulled it off, where what you buy is all really side grades, and because the FPS XP doesn't really matter. But when it comes to Guild Wars 2, I think they only really got away with it because the level didn't matter in that, because of the level scaling system, and there was no sort of raids to rush to. But in every other MMO I've seen it done, it's just, you get this elitism of people who will happily drop 50 quid like a month on the game to buy themselves all the power boosts that they can get in the world, and then those who are trying to scrape by and not actually spend any money, or spend a more reasonable amount that you might spend on a sub anyway, so maybe £8 to £12 per month. And because of the free-to-play model, they just can't even compete when they're paying what they would pay on a subscription.
Evil Hot Dog, you have the floor.
Yeah, and I'm against the free-to-play model also myself. I think that everybody should have the same chance to obtain whatever it is in game, regardless of how much you pay. You're all equals, and you all have potential to grow and to level and to become whatever you want to be. And that's something that you can't really, you can't buy pride, and you can't when you buy your way through the game, it's just not the same. And it just has a completely different feel to it when you know that somebody bought it, as opposed to earning it, when one or two people on the server have this, specific weapon that is awesome, and, they earned it, essentially, as opposed to bought it.
Issel?
Well, I mean, Gaffney has always around said there's going to be a mixed model, so there will be some form of mixed relationship when it comes to free to play and P2P. But my point is, looking at what Star Wars is doing at the moment, where you can basically play for free and you get limited access, and you can buy access to different things, and or you could just pay a monthly subscription and you gain X amount of the currency to the cash shop and stuff like that, and access to everything. I personally believe that's the way they're going to do it, because it seems to sort of work for Star Wars, and it's a very compromising model. Do I completely agree with it? I don't know. I would personally like to see the game be completely P2P, with like maybe like a cash shop for WoW for like pets and stuff that doesn't matter to the regular game or has no impact on the game performance in any way. But personally, I think they're going to go the way of the Star Wars model, to be honest.
Did someone say something? Okay. Screenager, you're next.
Sure. Thank you. I think we've got to take into account here. There are as many different opinions on this as there are types of players. And at the end of the day, what we have to look into is the reality of the situation. A lot of people don't like free to play. We have to realise that free to play doesn't necessarily mean pay to win, and we have to take into account that I believe Gaffney said there was going to be a hybrid model of some sort. Bearing in mind NCSoft's earnings statements that have been coming out, and bearing in mind NCSoft pay the bills from Guild Wars 2, I think it's relatively unlikely that we would see some sort of paid for in-game content, whether that be physical area access or physical raid content, or whether it be a cash shop. We don't necessarily know. However, you do have to bear in mind that the publisher of the game have a history with Guild Wars 2 of successfully raking in a ton of cash through an in-game shop. So we have to bear that in mind. There is a likelihood it's probably going to go down that road in one way, shape, or form. And that takes us back to the original statement of how much it should influence the game. At the end of the day, I don't really think that it should influence someone's physical ability to play the game and succeed, especially bearing in mind that, like it's been said, there's going to be raid content, and that will have a huge influence on people's ability to win. And bearing in mind the structure of this game, a cash shop will tend more to influence people in a pay-to-win model. No one's mentioned yet that there's the possibility of whether it be buy the box or free to download. There's been some discussion on this, and I've been talking to a few people about this. I think what we're in danger of doing, based on some of the discussion that's been here, is we're in danger of making a lot of assumptions based on our own historical experience. When talking about buying the box, a lot of people have assumed recently that buy the box means physically buy the box, but what does the actual box mean? It could potentially be the case that what if they introduced a model where the base client was free, but the boxed version was the premium version of the client, and that's the way they introduced it, to be able to allow people to access it that weren't willing to pay for a game and wanted a free-to-play game, whilst allowing people to buy a premium option that's boxed, and therefore essentially give them money through the a buy the box model.
Mispa, you're next.
I think we've got to accept there's going to be commercial realities, and I'm quite sure that commercial reality and my personal opinions won't always be in tandem. I'm of the ilk where I would happily pay double a typical subscription to be on a subscription-only server with the economy only influenced by people that don't have access to a cash shop. But my issues with various models come from a position of equity and fairness. If someone has a set of shoulders, I want to know they've earned them in the same fashion that I've had to. So I'd bounce the question back to everyone in return. What could be put into a cash shop that would not have a negative impact on fairness and equity within the game? Because I cannot find any examples, and I include GW2 in that, of a model where I can't point to imbalance due to the introduction of the cash shop.
Patrician?
Yeah, basically I just wanted to say that, I actually don't usually talk about the payment model plan because I just completely trust Carbine to do whatever, but that's just me. But one thing that I really, really don't want to see are those random items where you have to you buy to get a box, and when you open it, it might contain a rare item, but it usually contains crap. I just don't like that mentality in a game, and I feel it's cheap and gambling, and it just brings the level of what you're doing down to me. And another thing that I don't ever want to see is a ton of things for housing, for example, that you have to only get by using a cash shop. As long as there's some other way in the world to get that stuff, I am perfectly fine if it's in the cash shop, but I would never want the only way to get certain things like gear sets or looks to only be in a cash shop, and that's my only choice.
Sarah, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, most of this has already just been said from previous posters, but I just want to sort of reiterate it. Personally, from my own opinion, I prefer pay to play. But as Mr. pointed out, the reality is companies can make more money from sort of hybrid models that incorporate a cash shop. So we are going to have that, whether we like it or not. And inevitably, every studio and distributor says they're not going to make their games pay to win. And inevitably what happens is that these elements are always introduced. You just have to look at things like Secret World and SWTOR. If you look at the SWTOR cash shop now, to get the higher leveling experience rate, you have to buy an experience booster. You buy packs which contain crafting items and rare and super rare crafting items. But I think it's inevitable that they're going for a hybrid model. They said they are. I think the only question is what they put in it. And I think, we are going to see some levels of boost put in. But it would be nice to think that they would go, if anything, more the lines of the Guild Wars 2 cash shop, as opposed to the Terra stroke SWTOR cash shop models.
Isil, you have the floor.
Well, I mean, personally, the only things acceptable for being a cash shop is vanity. Vanity stuff's got to be cosmetic stuff. It's got to be pets. It's got to be to a degree mounts. But if you go the mounts route, you'll need the appropriate skill in order to use that mount. You can just buy an epic mount and use it from level 1. I think I think a lot of it's going to come down to, because you have the Star Wars model, and you got the models equal to that. But Rift is going free to play soon, and if it hasn't already, I can't remember. It's going to be close anyway. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, because they are based off the same premise as Wildstar. It's a theme park MMO, high-end rating. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do their cash shop and how that's going to affect their game. And I think that's going to have an impact upon how Wildstar might conduct theirs.
I think you could probably... I'm sorry. Pseudo was going to say something.
No worries. Aurora wanted to speak on Mispa's comment, which I'm assuming you're wanting to carry on as well.
Yes, I just wanted to talk about the whole item shop idea. I think some features that a lot of games do use with item shops is purely vanity and cosmetic, which is pretty stereotypical for a lot of games. People do enjoy buying costumes, wings, pets, but what I do find is making some of those features untradeable, because I know Ion did do this with the wing feature that you could buy from the item shop. So you couldn't really influence, say, the vanity market as much as you would on any other game.
Go ahead, Aiko.
I'm eating a cookie, so just carry on, sorry.
Okay. Well, no one else has chimed in, so if you wish to carry on about this discussion, by all means. And then when you're finished with your cookie, let me know and I'll clear the floor for you.
Just briefly, while we're waiting for said cookie consumption, Has anyone got any further ideas as to what could be placed in a cash shop? Because if the only thing we can find are pure cosmetics, and even for mounts, as Yaksan pointed out, I personally, as he said, would love it to be a skin for an existing mount. If it's just cosmetics, isn't that impacting on, say, the RPers and those who have a love of the housing and cosmetic items over mechanical features and functions?
Clear.
Is this open or?
Actually, Ayora wanted to chime in on that.
Yes, I just wanted to agree with that little comment made by Mizpa about, of course, the role-player community, because as they are a huge part of the community, and I can understand your point of if people are able to buy said vanity items, then it would influence them. Yeah.
Okay, and Ender, you wanted to speak on this specifically?
Yeah, I figured actually representing the roleplay community a bit here. That was probably an idea. I'm actually not totally against having vanity items, but it is definitely influencing the roleplays, especially when it comes to clothing items. Mounts, I think, would be kind of awesome. I think pretty much anyone will care about that. But clothing items is definitely something that I could imagine role players being more inclined to pay money for, and I think it's possible to reach a balance. But I also would hate to see us as role players sort of ending up having to pay a lot for a lot more than, you know, I don't know, a lot of the rest of the community would have to. Like, I would love to, as Patricia said, see the games, see the items in game too, if you want to, you know, get it that way.
Issel?
I think, and with all due respect to the role playing community, I think you have to, if you're going to have a cash shop, I mean that's the sort of thing you would have to put in there. I mean, the alternative would be having no cash shop whatsoever, in my opinion. But since that's probably not going to happen, unfortunately, I think the only thing you can do that won't affect the majority of the population would be vanity things, and as Interposition said, that, you know, it could have an impact. I don't think it'd be a game-breaking impact unless they introduce something completely silly. But then it's up to the individual role player to determine whether or not he values his community enough to not buy said item that could interfere with their experience.
Ender? Did you have something else to add, Ender?
Oh yeah, sorry, I hit the wrong key. Yeah, I just wanted to answer and say I actually really agree with that. A lot of the role players are also gamers, including both Patricia and I, and we are well aware that cosmetic items is probably one of the things that is easiest to put in a cash shop that kind of works for everyone. So I'm totally sympathetic to that, and I do think it would be nice to see some cosmetic items. It's more a question of not adding all the cool stuff to the cash shop, so we feel like we're forced to shell out a lot of money. I don't know. It's kind of a balance thing.
Can I chip in for 2 seconds then?
Just 1 second. Aiko, did you finish your cookie?
Yeah, but what I was going to say is so far long gone in the past, don't worry about it. It was like a little quirky comment. It's gone. It's gone.
Along with your cookie. Go ahead, Screenager.
Cool. Well, just a question then based on this. Bearing in mind that people are saying about cosmetic items that you can find in games, so what's the general opinion on, say, consumables or food as we know it being available in a cash shop for someone? Say there's got to be a market there for people who just can't be asked or don't have the time to craft prior to a raid. Would that be considered game breaking?
I think it would be. That's
Despite
like
the fact
that.
you can craft it in game.
Well, but that's, I don't know. That's borderline.
For me, it's a step too far. If consumables are available for purchase, then I could see the metagame being you will have 1,000 of these because you can buy them, you don't have to invest X time, therefore they'll be used in a different fashion and they'll be valued in a different fashion. It will have impact on the economy, and it's over the tip of a very, very slippery slope for me.
To me, I think it depends a bit on what exactly those consumables are, because if we're talking stuff like health potions, yeah, I definitely agree. But say something that gives you a 5% experience boost for 2 hours or something like that. I don't know. I'm not completely sure about it because it's something that could just help you a tiny bit reaching a specific goal, for instance, but doesn't really give you that much. But then again, the pricing for something like that would definitely matter.
It will create a division. There will be those raid leaders, guilds and raids, who say this is essential and everybody must have it. As soon as you attach a number to something, it becomes critical to me, and it doesn't matter if that number is 0.0001. I will wear the most hideous things in the game to get that 0.0001 percentage advantage or jump through any hoop. So nothing in a cash shop can affect a number.
No, but I'm talking about something that only affects you personally and your own experience, nothing that will affect your competitiveness or your skill level. Well, skill level you can only really affect, but nothing that will actually, you know, change where you stand in the game, but only say add a small bonus to your speed or whatever.
But then you've got the issue of, on, say, fresh expansion and on launch, you've got these guys who can pay for that, will hit end game faster, and therefore will probably end up clearing the launch Elder game content fastest. So you are, even though there are little advantages, even run speed, you're then making it easier for a user to go from mob to mob to mob to mob to mob. So it's going to stack up, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I still would like to have the floor.
Thank you. I'll be on Miss Bassar on this one. I think it's a very, very slippery slope to get into, and like Ika said, buying stuff, even if it's XP related, it's gonna have an effect. I mean, anytime you put something in, like Miss said, that affects numbers in the game, it's gonna have an effect. And the biggest thing, I mean, Miss named it, said that it's going to have an effect. Like some guild masters going to require it, and some won't. But my biggest issue with consumables is basically how it's going to impact the economy, because a huge part of the WoW economy, for instance, is based around people buying and selling potions. I know most high-end guilds have their own crafting in house, but a lot don't, especially the smaller guilds. So I think buying consumables from a cash shop that's going too far.
Go ahead, Heaps Good.
Basically, I wanted to talk about crafting, but since we got on the topic of thing, I can just talk about this later. It's no problem.
Go ahead and bring it back to crafting if you would like. It is a part of this particular subject matter.
Okay, I'm completely breaking up this discussion now, but I like to see in crafting, or what would be cool if paths have an impact on crafting. Like if you're a scientist, I don't know if you can this specific plant, you can harvest more stuff out of it, or as a settler you can build optimized crafting stations. This would be a cool feature that I'd like to see. And also for endgame crafting, like I'm not really the type of crafter, because most of the time it's farming, it's endless farming for this one good I don't know, bar of iron or whatever that you need to craft this armor. I'd rather have a hard quest line or whatever to get this item, instead of farming mobs for 2 hours or whatever to get those one good crafting material. I don't know what the rest of I know some people like to farm, but to me it's more like work. So I'd rather see some more like objective based like quests that give you those those crafting materials.
Ayora, you would like to chime in on this?
Yes, just going off that little comment about either quests or farming, I think what a lot of games do use is the ability to get a quest to get a specific rare crafting item, which is what a lot of MMOs do offer, but also the feature for farming. So I think the balance of the two and having both in a game would make it more enjoyable for everyone, because the people who are, let's say, shot soldiers and had a quest in that specific area for their path could get that done, and they could farm their material whilst they were grinding mobs. Although the person that doesn't really like grinding mobs, let's say a scientist, has a study area somewhere that is near the quest, then they could go off and get that quest done and do one of their path quests. It just kind of, the diversity of you knowing you're able to quest or farm makes it a lot more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah,
I apologize
that's exactly
for cutting
what
in.
I'm talking.
We will be transitioning to PvP in 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Get your last comments in. Any final thoughts at all?
Alrighty, well, in that case, feel free to take this conversation back to the forums with you. Now we will be beginning a conversation on PvP, so have at it.
Silence is deafening.
Sorry, shall I?
Ayora, you wanted to speak up?
Yes, mine, well, this is something that comes up in a lot of games and is a very big influence, and it does tend to cause a lot of raging and QQing, and that is animation. Now, a lot of you, I'm pretty sure, are aware that in a lot of games, certain races get a little bit of an edge when it comes to animation. Now, I was wondering if any of you were concerned about this also.
I can take that one. Not particularly. From what I've seen in terms of animations in the game so far, it doesn't seem to have a huge impact, especially because it's an action based. I think I can't remember the last game that it had a huge impact on, and I think we're sort of past the point where developers are doing different animations. That has a big, yeah. Star Wars, true. Star Wars had a bit of it, but yeah, no, it's not something I'm worried about in this game. I think they thought it out. Also because the PvP team behind this is very experienced.
Patrician?
I'm excited mostly, I think, and this is going to maybe sound weird that I'm not actually talking about specifically PvP, but more the social aspects of PvP. I'm excited when I was in PvP in WoW, all I would do when I got killed by someone was I would go and look at their armory and see what they had and what their rating was and why they killed me so well and how maybe I could beat them. And what I would like is different tools and ways for us to track people on the opposite team so that we can keep in contact with them as rivals and keep track of them and just engage them in that friendly kind of competition way.
So we stumbled into the void that is cross-faction chat.
Yes, Isil, you wanted to bring something up?
It's a little bit along those lines. One thing I would love to see in this game that takes me back to the Warhammer days is in Warhammer they had something called the Book of Grudges. I think it's a mod, and basically what it entails is it tracked every kill you had, but not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of names. So like you could see your kill death ratio compared to other players specifically, and it caused some great rivalries across the server. That you could specifically target people. You saw people, listen, how is my KD compared to that guy? And I'm personally a hell of a stat whore. I love stats, and I love to be able to look into how I'm doing against certain players, against certain classes, and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be in there right away, but I hope someone makes a mod for it.
Yeah, I would love that kind of stuff.
Mizpah, you're next.
Just to throw a question out there again, you often run into balancing of classes in PvP, and I can entirely understand the reasons why that's warranted and needed. But as someone that is primarily a PvEer, I'd also put across what can be done, stroke should be done, to make sure that class balances for PvP don't alter the effectiveness of characters in PvE, particularly the ability for two separate classes to compete on DPS, for example. And I guess the question to anyone out there is, should one be rated more highly than the other?
I don't think we can really go into any sort of proper detail or theory crafting on it at the moment, just because the way milestones have been explained to us so far, you know, the amount of builds we're going to have, to me anyway, so far is staggering that we can play around with. So you're not going to get the cookie cutters that we've got in more well-known MMOs. So from that, two classes might compete on a different level, but in the same way. On the same level, but in a different way. Just purely on the build.
Sorry.
Scavenger has the floor.
Go.
Or Screenager, sorry.
No. Okay. Right. In response to first the cookie cutter thing. Invariably, with new MMOs coming out, we always get the idea that we're not going to get cookie cutters. At the end of the day, people will copy good, effective builds. It's gonna happen. There's going to be a wide variety of builds, but cookie cutting will happen invariably. It always will. It's something you can't get away from. It saves people having to learn classes as well as they might otherwise do if they do it through trial and error. So inevitably, cookie cutting is going to happen. It's just an inevitability of playing MMOs with large numbers of players. Second thing I was going to say is in response to the balancing. I think it comes down to a design decision by the devs. But at the end of the day, from my point of view, this is entirely my point of view, you kind of have to just bite the bullet, deal with the realities, and split off your PvE and your PvP balancing entirely. There in far too many circumstances with too many games, you get it's a way off. You get your PvE balance and get screwed up by PvP, or your PvP gets screwed up by your PvE. And although it does it does raise the barrier of entry to either side of the game, what it does end up doing is it does end up making things easier to balance within each game type. It's just a way off of what's more important. And from a completely selfish point of view, because PvP is the main aspect of what I want to play, the balancing for the PvP elements of it, I would prefer to have sectioned off.
Sarah, you have the floor.
To come back again, talking about balance that Mispa raised up, balance. Too many games worry about it in too much detail, just as Scringer was saying. Don't try to balance them completely. I mean, look at WoW. Every class is basically the same now. Everyone can do everything. Everyone has an equivalent skill. Don't go over the top on balance. Make them different. Because as Scringer pointed out, you try to balance them too much, you will impact, PvE will impact on PvP, and PvP will impact on PvE, so don't. The one thing I want to talk about is open world PvP. Okay, separate from war plots, and I love open world PvP. More often than not, I end up being ganked and killed, but it makes me laugh. I just love it. I find it quite entertaining to do, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I am interested to find out from particularly those people who are PvP orientated what their views would be on open world PvP within Wildstar.
Yaxan, would you like to comment?
Yes, I want to bring up something that my glorious leader, Kurik, formerly Kurik Lane, always tried to bring up in relation to war plots. So Sarah might like this, and mostly talked to him about it. Was that I know it's not. I don't think it's on the table for launch, but I certainly hope they still have it, on their whiteboard saying one day we should be able to allow guilds, or not actually, sorry, not guilds inappropriate, parties to challenge other war parties directly in in the war plots. So and with that you could be able to organize tournaments on your server and such like that. Because I believe at the moment war plots are entirely just matchmaking based.
Okay. Fox, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, the PvP lead for Rugged's been having words in my ears, even though we disagree on certain things. On war plots, he definitely wants some sort of scrimmage system where you can match against opponent, even if it's just a practice match, because you could have community tournaments set up off that. Even if you get 40v40 where it's in your own guild just to practice the war plots. Onto the balance issues, you've got to remember in games like WoW, it's normally you click on the person, you press a skill, the skill's cast. This game's action combat, so it's going to be a lot more player skill based as well. So yes, they may have to balance certain things, knockbacks and stuff, but I don't see it being as big an issue as a lot of games. With the PvP stats they bring in as well, they'll be able to balance that as well without affecting too much of PvE.
Okay, Aiko?
Yeah, just quickly touching on the point that Sarah made about balance as well. I think I looked over it when I first spoke as well. Gortok recently made a post where he talked about itemization and chips, and he kind of let slip, or maybe just talked about how a raider is going to want to be stacking more HP. So I do think in terms of balance and how we're going to build our characters to keep those two worlds separate from each other and different enough, I think Carbine have already got that sort of in hand. And they're intending for raiders are going to have to build very HP heavy gear, and your PvPers are probably going to want to go very bursty, at least for the damage dealers.
Sarah, you wanted to chime in on this?
Yeah, it was just to pick up on some of the stuff that was going around with war plots there. You're right, we don't know enough details about how they're going to be set up. There has been some hit that there will be some pairing done to make sure that war plots aren't completely unevenly matched. And what we would like to see, particularly from the war plot side, is the ability to actually pick a particular war party to go to battle with. But we haven't actually heard if that's going to be in game. We've been trying to push the devs to find out what sort of functionality is going to be there. The only thing we've got so far is the fact that there won't be a spectator mode. But I think the idea of being able to pick matches as well as having the pairing ones to make sure you don't get a huge mismatch would be very good.
I'm now going to basically leave the floor open for everyone to chime in because we have a variety of topics about PvP. So if we find ourselves talking over each other again, I'll interrupt and allow people to speak. But for now, enjoy the PvP topic.
Too awkward.
Apparently so.
Then I'll chime in with, I hope that gear specialization becomes deep and meaningful in PvP as much as it does in PvE, and there isn't a need, real or imagined, to have to choose to play both games to excel in either, unless you choose to.
And that actually just gave me an idea. If items are going to have active spells that you can use, which would obviously play a part in PvP depending on what the spell does. So if they implement that, then that would be a huge part of it also.
Now, I would quite like to see, on building on what you're saying, essentially taking it a tangent in terms of going from the gear to crafting to parts. I think it would be quite nice to see that different parts can take different active roles, both within PvP and within war plots. Explorers being able to find hidden entrances or hidden pathways through the battlefield. Scientists able to scan other people's war plots to gain, information on the defence structure. Settlers being able to sort of like act as sappers to actively undermine other people's defences.
Any comments on that?
Well, I think they've already said Path is going to have some form of implementation and wall plots in PvP. They're not sure what it's going to be yet, fully, but it's definitely going to be there. So we just have to wait and see if they have had somewhat of the same thoughts.
I'm trying to use this as a pump prime.
Alrighty, well, we are coming to the end of the PvP subject. So what I'll suggest you do is you transfer this over to the forums like every other topic that we've discussed. Just before we transition, we do have a new arrival. I do believe it is pronounced Anu.
Hi.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh dear. Hi guys, my name's Anu. I'm GM of VOTF. Not sure if many of you know who we are. I know.
Vengeance to the Fallen.
But hey, okay, some of you do. I have a massive man crush on Screen Edger, by the way. Just saying.
Somebody give me the zapper. Clear.
Sorry,
Wonderful.
Ayora.
So we will be transitioning to the next topic, which is going to be PvE. We've got about 45 minutes left before the end of the meeting, and we still have PvE, role-playing, and a discussion regarding the devs. So if we can squeeze that all in, let's try to. If not, let's start with PvE. If you wish to speak, send a private message to pseudonym.
What I was going to suggest is we let people start off on your topic of conversation. If you'd like to get a word in edgewise, and you would like me to step up and basically interrupt everybody else to give you a chance to speak, go ahead and send me a message. Otherwise, just by all means, feel free to discuss all the topics that we have brought up. If you want to run by that list one more time, Nixus.
So that would be PvE. Excuse me. So PvE, role-playing, and we will try to discuss the developers that we have in this community. So what we like, what we like about them, what we wish they would do more of, that kind of thing.
Develop faster.
Right. So does anyone want to start the floor off?
I can start.
Issel, you have the floor.
Right, yeah. Well, I'm really interested in knowing how many of the guilds present here are planning on applying for being in the upcoming boss tests that they have announced that they are looking for raids for.
I can certainly say that should there be a means to, Enigma will happily put a team forwards.
Yeah, Rugged's in the same boat there.
Same here, yeah.
The roleplay community is putting together at least one team as well.
Awesome.
We might even
Apparently.
have two.
We actually have
Apparently.
a forum topic discussing which body parts we could sell on eBay to get us access to it.
Patrician?
Oh no, I was just saying we might even have two groups forming.
Right. Apparently that was a very easy question. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up in regards to this? PvE, developers, roleplay?
I guess I can throw one in that might lead into another. Certainly with regards to raid testing as time moves on, there's a question mark as to whether everyone involved in raid testing will have the chance to learn and understand their characters before being thrown at a boss. Certainly for balance, someone who knows a class and someone who doesn't, they're very, very different entities. And as I guess the question following the statement, I really do hope that it's very okay to have a mentality whereby not everyone should be able to do and achieve anything and everything. There has been far too much in many other games, along with the homogenization has become the everyone has to see everything, everyone has to do everything, let's make everything accessible to all. And whereas everyone pays the same via whatever model or not for the content, I certainly think content should be tiered and targeted at different levels of dedication, time, availability, skill, progress, call it what you will. But there has to be something to strive for and something to differentiate yourself with and in.
And I agree with Mizpah on this one. To quote Dara O'Brien, the Northern Irish comedian, he talks about games as like that one sort of art where it's the only type of art where you don't get all the content given to you just because you own the game. It's a game's meant to challenge you and constantly put fences and hurdles and walls in front of your way, and you're meant to figure out a way around it. And I feel, especially with a lot of MMOs and the trend of how older MMOs have evolved and newer MMOs that are trying to compete with that said MMO have been built, is that they just give you everything. And I think a video got linked in the Wildstar, the Wildstar Central IRC, and it was this guy he's gone through all of WoW in a day's playtime and completed all the raid content without ever really hitting anything. So, yeah.
I think I can agree with that completely. I mean, the thrill of actually hitting an end game and knowing you don't know everything and you don't have everything kind of gives the thrill of, oh, actually, I don't have this, but I could ask someone to tell me about it so I'm informed about it. I enjoy the thought of going onto YouTube, looking up stuff that I'll never actually be able to do.
I'm guessing someone... Oh, go ahead, Fox.
Sorry. I'm guessing that a fair few people in this channel actually got into raiding because of that, because they saw stuff that they couldn't do but they wanted to do.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember standing there as a fresh WoW newbie, and this was after the game had been going for some time, looking at those raiders and going, wow, look at all that. And now you run around in a game like WoW and you look at raiders like, oh, they're wearing the exact same thing I am. And they got it in a week.
I think it comes down to the whole casualization of MMOs over the past few years and how every iteration has tried to pander towards the casual community. Most games, like Guild Wars 2 does it, for example, the whole everyone gets rewarded for running PvE, even though PvE in Guild Wars 2 isn't exactly outstanding, but it's an ideal that so many development companies have had over the past few years, and now hopefully they can see that that isn't actually the way to take a game.
I can only massively agree. Enigma was forged, so to speak, in the fires of 40-man raiding back in vanilla WoW. I have no hesitation in saying we wouldn't be here today as the same group of people if it weren't for that shared experience and difficulty we went through. To this day, I'm yet to see something rival 40-man Nax, and I have massive hopes for this game, and I hope they're fulfilled.
And I only hope that the developers don't actually cave in after launch, because you can see that happening with many games at the moment as well, where they're seeing the green dollar signs in their eyes and thinking, is the grass greener? They dip their feet in and then realize, okay, we've made a huge mistake, but it's something we can't back out of.
There could actually be a hybrid balance. If you complete a raid within a certain time scale, let's say it drops the +10 Sword of Awesome, I'm okay if when they make it easier, it then drops the +8 Sword of Awesome instead. It still leaves something to differentiate for, and a different mark and a different item you can walk away with.
But then, Miz, you've got the problem of gear laddering, which is why, in my opinion, WoW hard mode failed in general, was the fact that because what you're doing is you're setting yourself a time target there. So what you do the boss, you kill the boss, you get your first set of loot on your first run, and say you get the +5 Sword of Awesome, then you come back, and because you've got the extra DPS from the +5 Sword of Awesome, you get the +7 Sword of Awesome. And eventually your raid just carries on, so it stops being about skill and more being about grinding and just constantly getting a little bit more powerful to push it.
Valid point. I would far rather it never dipped in difficulty, just trying to come up with an alternative option to stop that inexorable slide.
Maybe that's why they've put the 20-man raids in there. Something slightly easier that guilds that can't field 40 men or don't have time to put as much effort into raid could get into instead.
See, I'd like to see the 20-man content have the ability to be very difficult as well, because 25-man Burning Crusade, there were a lot of very good raids done very, very well, tuned very, very well for 25 people. They weren't the craziness of 40, because obviously you had that a little bit more organisational control as a raid leader over people, because you had nearly half as many. But the fights themselves were still very challenging. You know, just because you're lowering the head count doesn't mean it has to be easier. It just has to be designed differently.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but the problem is, I mean, you've got 25 people who aren't as skilled as the next 25 people, so that content is then going to be harder for said 25 people than, you know, the uber elite 25 people. I mean, I'd prefer to see scalable instances, something that takes into account the activity that's going on right there and then, you know, and caters it towards a certain difficulty level while changing the loot that you get. So if you're not exceedingly brilliant, you still got the chance to get loot. You still got the chance to complete it, but you will never get the top end loot. That is just something that you will never ever achieve if you're mediocre. If you're amazing, however, you will be going up against the hardest content in the game, and you have the chance to basically get the best items in the game as well. That is something, that's the only idea in my head where I can see this kind of thing working well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe you could have the content scale to be harder, like you say. So if you go in there, so the content scale is based on the raid's gear level. So you go in there with a raid of like a gear level of aggregate of 1,000. The content might be the base level, and then the numbers and damage go ever so slightly up as everyone gets better, but not to the point where your gear won't matter. So as you wear better gear, you will out gear the content, but it'll still provide a challenge. In the same way Guild Wars tried to do the level down mechanic.
Don't like it completely focused on gear. Okay, gear will come into it, and obviously DPS based on gear, that is obviously going to be something that is quite prominent when it comes to scaling things like this. But, you know, you've got people who are able to play their class is better than other people. There's people that will be able to get more DPS out of their class through min-maxing, whatever, you know, just basically making themselves far more efficient than anyone else around. You know, these are the people that will make the game a success. They will make people want to aspire to become like them, if you know what I mean. And these are the people that need the challenge. They don't need an instance that you know, you complete it once, you know exactly what to do, you write down everything the boss does, and you just post it on your internal forums. There you go. Your guild can do that content over and over and over again. It can grind the gear. I hate the thought of that. I want it to be something that's fresh every time you go into it, because that's the only way you get rid of grinding. That is the only way that you can actually get rid of the grind in a game, is by giving people a constant feel of exhilaration that, you know, oh my god, that was much harder than last time, and we did it still. You know, we've actually improved. I don't care if I've killed this boss 5 times, 10 times. If I continually get that feeling every time I fight the boss, then, you know, it's not a grind to me.
I think as well we have to sort of take into account we are that small percent that I think Carbine have said they're trying to aim for in terms of their raiding audience and their PvP audience, but we're the kind of guys who will jump onto a game while it's still in dev, strangely enough, and, you know, we'll start organising things and we'll put these great plans into action and start sharing ideas, and we'll really want to help the game get better or become better before launch. But then you've got everyone else, you know, the general gamer population that might not even know the game exists yet. So their opinions aren't.
Go ahead, Ms. Pa.
Sorry, I kept cutting you off. Just to step back briefly to a comment. I'm not so sure I'm such a massive fan of the content scaling dynamically based on your performance within a given raid. I think that could cheapen the achievement of killing Boss X. What I do like, however, is the difficulty that can be achieved through challenges and mechanics. Take Freya, for anyone that knows the reference. How many of the achievements, such as knock on wood, the number of plants standing, change the difficulty of the encounter. So undertaking an encounter via different mechanics, being a flag or a gateway to easier or harder content with associated reward, wouldn't actually then have to dynamically change the nature of the base achievement, killing the boss in the first place.
So in that regard, you're talking like Yacht Run +1, +2, +3, +4 kind of
Exactly.
content. Yeah, okay. That's. I mean, I've always thought that was a good idea, because it also gives longevity to the like really hardcore guilds that the only thing they live for is world first, and then they leave the game. You know, so that's I think personally that's a good idea. I think it's the whole thing where if you do dynamic content is gonna be hard to implement because they want to do the whole leaderboard thing. And it either they would have to implement that you had some sort of bonus for doing dynamically harder content than your opposition, if you will, or but I just don't think it will work in terms of competition wise.
Just another one to throw out there in case anyone can enlighten me. I believe there's been comments made about solo endgame content. Does anyone have any expectations as to how that will be handled to introduce sort of difficulty and tiers of challenge and not repetition?
Well, I mean, from what they've said, it comes down to the bosses is going to have different mechanics and different difficulty levels from week to week. They've directly come out and said that 1 week the lesser good guild I mean, you've got to be willing to accept that. And other weeks it's going to be easier. And those weeks where it's easier, the better guilds will already come in to say, all right, who can do it the fastest then in this easier setup. But they've already come out and said that the way they're going to do the difficulty and the change up is going to be by varying combat mechanics from the bosses.
I think my comment was targeted. I think there was a GameSpy article with a quote by Jeremy Gaffney talking about endgame solo content and having great endgame solo content and difficulty, in addition to the raid PvE, which while I'll talk about it all day long, there are, I guess, many styles of endgame play as well. And Ico, now you've mentioned XT, I've now got that voice in my head. Thank you.
Any other comments about PvE or RP?
About PvE, well, it's like sort of a like more general kind of thing, but it definitely relates to PvE and raiding. One of the things I brought in early when I joined Wildstar Central is that one of the things I didn't really like was when people kept bringing up statistics and tried to justify focus of content and trying to make it like basically a WoW, does not did nowadays or something like that. So why trying to make everything more accessible, like we talked about earlier, is that I think there's an inherent flaw with the argument because these MMOs are so big and they cater to different audiences. Not everyone comes to play WoW to raid or to PvP and so forth. So, using the statistics go like, oh, only X many people are playing that. We must try to cater, make raids more accessible to PvPers or something like that. I think that's a flawed argument because PvPers did not come to, this game to do raids. They went there to PvP. So I would feel that they should really just take the content like raiders should be made for raiders. They they shouldn't be a too high barrier of entry, in a way. But I wouldn't say L5R kind of way to handle it, but just make sure the content is raiders are made for raiders, solo content is made for the people that like solo content, and same team with PvPers, or just the people that like to think around and kill rare spawns. I have a friend that just loves running around World of Warcraft killing rare spawns, even though they're now worthless because Blizzard decided to change it. So it's more accessible to people that didn't like doing that. That's a mentality I want developers to avoid, and just go more towards to if you're making a big game like this, different kinds of content, then make the different kind of content cater to that audience and not try to make something that pleases everyone. Because if you try to please everyone, you please no one.
I'll fill the gap by saying very, very true and often not thought about. And keeping half an eye on the clock, I guess someone has to throw this out there. I've never seen a dev team so proactively communicate in such a great fashion with the entirety of the community. I know some of us here were lucky enough to be involved in an ARC ship, and that helps support and reinforce our view of the devs. Through personal experience, but everyone I speak to, even those who have had no direct content, have come away with really good, positive impressions, and the way they've cut through the cynicism of people that have been around for a long time and seen many failures recently is highly refreshing. And I guess if the people are listening to this, then a pat on the back needs to be pointed out as well.
Shout out to the con team. Whoa.
Yes, if you have any comments about developers, by all means, now's a good time to let your voice be heard.
Oh God, I could go on about the developers. I have drunk the Kool-Aid. I am a giant fanboy. Don't get me started on the developers. I love them.
Who's the sexiest developer?
Troy.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is Troy.
You know that Chad is going to really cry that you said that, right?
Okay, Chad.
I know who. His name is P-Chan. I've never seen a picture of him, but I've seen his text, and I like him.
Well, Chad is pretty sexy too, so.
A little beyond the direction I was going to go with the developers section,
You
but it is a
did
general
ask for
topic,
comments on the developers.
and their role within the community. How about that? We'll add that as an addition.
I think the thing that they could do most of all is try and find the resource in the heart to keep doing what they're doing, even after hundreds of more people get involved with repetition and negativity, which we can probably expect once the game goes live, purely because that is the typical culture. The thing I'd fear most of all is that all the channels go underground, and there is no direct response or a limited response in the way we've got used to, just due to pressure. If there's anything they can do to minimize that, so much the better.
I just want to say it. I'll
sorry,
let you go
Akon.
first. Sorry.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. I'll go then. Fine. I just want them, like pretty much like you were saying, to keep up what they're doing, and like I said earlier, I gave a shout out to the economy team. It's mostly because they've been doing a great job of keeping constant communication with us. Like Gortok has been making all these threads on Wildstar Central, and he pops in along with P-Chan and J-Tald, and they are all in part of the econ team. They pop in on IRC, and they mingle in, and we'll just have do like normal stuff like any community member, but then sometimes they would actually sometimes they do answer some questions or clarify things. Like Gortok did the same thing with Blank Space last night. He clarified more about how the circuit board crafting was. So yeah, I just would love them to keep up doing that if possible, especially after launch. Because I've followed some games where sometimes developers would come in, but as they near launch, they sort of disappeared, due to crunch. Then they never came back again, and I thought that was, rather sad because I really liked, talking to these guys. I even played games with these guys. I just want them to just keep doing what they're doing. And if they manage to keep doing this, then Wildstar would definitely get a great following for that, because this mentality is actually what got me interested in the game. If it wasn't for this, I would have just been following news on Massively or something like that. You know, it was this sort of attitude from the developers and the community team that actually got me involved to the point that I'm now a moderator and actually now here. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
If I can jump in. What I'd ask from a community perspective, something to ask of Carbine. What happens a lot is that in the industry, you were talking about people playing games and the developers kind of disappearing after crunch. A lot of the people that you know and know and come to love from the games that you've played will be victims of the cycle of the games industry. Could secure that permanency with their developers so that we don't see people just vanish into the ether, and that there's some consistency in the team long term. And that way we won't see the people that we talk to now disappear after crunch, after their time has come and gone.
Yeah, I can only reiterate what Screen just said, really. You know, the fact that so many games have used this in-your-face kind of discussion, where it be developers, community team, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, it's continuing it after. You know, that is their job. So, you know, we can blow smoke as much as we want to. By all means, go for it. And like I said, I'm sorry to be the cynic in the room, but one too many times have I seen this happen, where, you know, that there's community interaction between development companies and the community, which is all part and parcel of the development process, but it's what happens after launch that matters the most. They can, you know, they can go throw gold-covered bloody swords or whatever at me at the moment. You know, they could come and continue this after launch.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead, Ender.
Oh yeah, I agree that it's gonna matter.
Yeah, TeamSpeak is cutting out.
Yeah, sorry. Am I on now?
You are.
Okay, great. It seems to be cutting out there a bit. I just wanted to say that, yeah, it's definitely gonna matter what they do after launch. But I've never ever, and I've been part of a lot of pre-launch communities now, like a lot, and I've never seen developers that was this involved in the community. I had the pleasure of going to ArcShip EU, as I'm sure several others here had to, and they were just so good at talking to us and so interested in a way where it wasn't just, you know, selling or something like that, but where they were actually interested in us and in making this game a great game, because you could really feel the passion for the game and for the community. And I'm actually really optimistic. Like, yeah, sure, we'll see what happens after launch, but I've never seen a developer team act or interact this much with the community.
I'm sorry, go, Patricia. Sorry.
I would just say real quick, one of the great things that they could do post-launch, if they're listening, is send a representative of them, send someone from the community team or Carbine team with a character to a roleplay event, just to participate in that roleplay event. And just being there, that would blow us away. And they've already done a million things for the role players to blow us away, but stuff like that are ideas to like keep involved post-launch.
Just to not counter what Ender said, but also with regards to developers sort of getting involved with the communities, there has been one other team that have done it of late, and have seemed to just keep to that ability to stay in touch, and that's been the SOE PlantSide 2 dev team. I mean, they went to the point of they took a fan machinima, which I think was like sort of battle reporter or something, where this guy was just going around on different servers and looking at the big battles going on and streaming it through Twitch. And they kind of brought him in house as a as a feature. And the SOE team, as well as the Carbine team, they just seem to have this take pleasure in talking to their community and seeing what everybody actually wants, as opposed to talk to everybody, get it all hyped up, and then disappear and then kind of come out a little bit later before a big patch.
Blank, you wanted to speak?
I know this is EU, but I did want to throw something out about the devs. And it's funny you mentioned PlanetSide. When PlanetSide first started coming out, I was the only Vanu Twitch stream round, and Trey used to actually stop by, and as part of like them just being there and me being supportive, they would drop off keys to give away. And that was the first time where I'd actually had that sort of interaction, so I thought it was interesting. On a totally different level, these developers are doing the exact opposite of what you expect. A bunch of us in this room, and there's no need to point fingers, have been working on MMOs, whether it's closed, whether you're signing an agreement or not, in different forms for many, many years. And I'm sure some of us could tell you some interesting stories about potential NDA breaks, or your firstborn being on the silver platter of things that you had to sign away. And instead of asking a developer that you're working with in a Ventrilo server every day a question, being told you don't need to know that or doesn't matter, the answer is more like, this is what I can tell you, and there's more coming. Genuine, that's the word. They come across as genuine, and that's why normally I'm in the lines with a new and I'm like, okay, feed us a line of crap, let's do a bunch of stuff for you, and then when the game comes out, you won't listen to us anymore, a bunch of you will get fired, and then this game will go to crap, we'll play it for 3 months. It doesn't feel like that, and I just hope that it continues to be like that. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I can jump off that, to be fair. I completely agree, and I hope, extremely hope, that this is the one game that changes the cycle, and if a company wants to look at another company and see how it's done right, or how it's partially done right, I mean, you only need to look to Reykjavik, basically, and to CCP. I don't think there's any other games company out there that has actually invested in its community base as much as CCP has. They have a community-led council that they pay to fly to Iceland practically, I think it's every 6 months or once a year, I'm not entirely sure, but those people are then the spokespeople for the community. There is so much that CCP has done from launch to now, and I can only hope that Carbine kind of emulate, if not are better than them. Good night, Screen.
And derp. Night, everyone. It's been great.
Good night, Screenager.
Thank you for joining us. Any thoughts out there? I'm sorry, Tuda?
I was just saying, if you've got more comments about the devs, PvE, roleplay, by all means, bring them up.
Oh, to answer Sarah's previous question as well, it would definitely have to be David Bass for me, because of secret reasons.
Can I shoot in from the about roleplay, I guess?
Go ahead. By all means.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I know that this was brought up. I think this was brought up yesterday too, and we just want to, take it up here again and say, I know in previous games the roleplay community has sometimes been very, very split off from the rest of the community, and we really, really want to avoid that. We really want to, have fun with all of you guys, so we're opening up all doors and just want to, interact with as many people as possible. So hey, please, if you guys want to come hang out, and that goes to all the communities too, talk to us, you know, anything. We really just want to, you know, make sure that the roleplay community isn't this separate unit as it sometimes become, but it's part of the overall community.
Roleplayers are great, apart from those times when they're stood on the bridges in Ironforge yelling at you for trying to stand on the bridge, because apparently the bridge doesn't really exist and they're currently building it.
I actually never heard that, but that is kind of funny.
I've had that one. That was an entertaining half an hour.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, but I just want to reiterate what Ender said, and I also want to say that we're totally open for any kind of interaction with you guys. If I know that Chemical Cutthroat has created these roleplay themed, where he wrote up a little blog about these special drinks that are Nexus themed, and if you know, Light and Dominion ever wants to have like him on the show for talking about his chemical concoctions and drinks and stuff, he'd love that. Drinking game or something like that. You know, all kinds of different stuff. Like they could have a drinking game with Scowling Cassians, but we are so open for any ideas you have for us to make us more involved.
Wonderful. What we're going to go ahead and do is, for the last 10 minutes, we'll open the floor to any topic you wish to discuss. So if there's anything you wanted to kind of backtrack on, feel free to.
To start out with, Yora wanted to backtrack to PvP topic about stacking.
Yes, if a lot of you have played group joinable PvP arenas, you do get the issue of people who are, let's say, in a guild, very well equipped, the highest level for that, let's say, PvP bracket, and enter together, wipe the arena, and makes it completely unenjoyable for everyone else. What I would like you all to answer is, would you like this feature to be available when you can enter with your friends, or would you prefer it to be a random selection, which is what I would prefer?
I'll take that. I think both should be available. I think you should be able to sign up in a solo queue, and I think you should sign up as a team queue. They've already gone on a long while through the ELO rating, if I presume most people know what that is by now. And I think doing it that way, you will always be signed up to people of your own skill level. I think it's unfair to limit people from signing up with their friends in PvP and arenas and battlegrounds and all that, because in the end, I mean, 99% of MMO players play this to play with their friends. So if you take that away from them, then the game becomes sort of meaningless. So therefore, I would say maybe have a solo queue, and maybe have a group queue. That would be a way around that, but I wouldn't take it out of the game completely.
Like the art of that is going to be in the matchmaking system.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Some matchmaking system on random battlegrounds where you're not actually joining rated battlegrounds. Something where if you join as a group, it automatically tries to match you against another group instead of just putting you against a random team.
I think that's just the logical way of really doing it. I mean, League of Legends has kind of got that one nailed down, that the more people you've got it grouped up, it will try and match you to equal pre-made sort of matchups as best as it possibly can. And it's the fairest way to go about it. And then, of course, that's all got to be done within the rating or the bracket that you're currently in.
I can agree to that.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that sounds like a good system. What I'd like to not see is Guild Wars' idea of not making you actually be able to team up with anyone and be on the same team. That was very confusing to me. Like, trying to sign up with a friend and being put on opposite teams half of the time, that didn't really work.
I think it's critical you could interact with all facets of the game as a representative of your community, should you be part of one. We do have the word massively in the title of these games, and, you know, multiplayer.
Yes, I think the idea brought forward just a moment ago about having the separate players who are signing up alone and then the players who are signing up in groups would be a very good feature to have.
I'll throw a very random question out there for people. To what degree should systems in the game A, exist, or B, dictate how you run systems that are outside the game? And I'll throw examples out there such as DKP, calendars, scheduling. Again, back to sort of quality of life tools, APIs, sharing data. Should this stuff be in the game client that dictates how things are done, or should there just be tools to allow people to do it however they so wish, albeit it takes more work and effort?
You should be able to synchronize them. Sorry, but we're in such a day and age when you've got a company like Google where you can sync pretty much everything through your Google account these days. If we get an API with enough tools, you could sit here, or I could sit here, I could write a calendar application that uses and consumes the API, but also posts back to the Wildstar server any events that I've made in a format that it can understand on our website. So the in-game and the website are just two different ways of looking at the same thing.
Completely agree, and a RESTful JSON API is exactly what I'm hoping for.
Same, mate.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. Like I said, having played EVE Online, they give you a huge amount of information that you can work with, and you can actually develop tools yourself to make the game far easier, and they've started to actually create more tools for players outside the game now to queue up skills and whatnot. So yeah, I can only reiterate APIs all the way.
I've got high hopes for the Wildstar API purely because the amount of detail that they're going into with the in-game add-on builder with Houston. So I mean, if they're taking it that they're going to give us a little in-game IDE to build UI mods, God knows what they're going to do with an API.
I mean, they've already said very open to it. I mean, just the fact that in just the first closed beta test, you already heard about there being like hundreds of mods, and you even saw footage of the developers sitting with player-made mods in the game. So, I mean, I can't imagine anything but they will allow input.
Just bouncing off that question, because that's something that is quite important to a lot of people, I feel, and I do apologize, I haven't read up as much as I should have on this topic, but in-game add-ons, moderations, raid frames, that kind of thing that it was plentiful in WoW. What is people's opinion on that in Wildstar?
I hope they don't allow all of it, like add-ons like deadly boss mods or stuff like that. It's like it's to me it's like cheating. I don't know. It tells you what to do before it happens, and with the random effects of the bosses, I think it's hard to actually write such a. I don't think it will be possible, anyways. But I hope they put in some sort of restriction for some types of add-ons that just makes like PvE content or PvP content easier for you.
I think what you got to take into account, especially with sort of in-game helper add-ons, is WoW was built with them and the ability to use them, and then eventually it got to the point where someone went and made AVR, which added telegraphs to World of Warcraft, something that they never expected to happen because all of their abilities worked in very static ways. So you could build a telegraph system that would tell you exactly where everything was going to be in future as well, not just where it was going to be for that one hit, but also everywhere it was going to hit. And that made it game breaking, but it came up in Wildstar Central. Wildstar's built around telegraphs. It's built giving you that kind of visual feedback for abilities, so it's going to have more complex abilities. So I think we're going to have more room to play around with clever deadly boss mod type add-ons than we have in WoW.
I think the question may go one step deeper, in that it comes down to a philosophy of what are you going to allow people to do with in-game tools. On one hand, you don't, in my view, want to close off the surface area of available tools and internal API within the game. You want to make everything available. You don't want to make things protected. You want to allow people to be creative, clever, intelligent, and enhance the game experience. But there is a line, and the line is when someone's creation changes the intended play of the game and changes the experience beyond certain parameters. The problem then becomes, how do you police that? And the only mechanism that I've been able to think of is some form of submit or publish or approval system for mods and add-ons. I'm very aware that would potentially add a huge level of complexity, but it would also put, if not a sign of approval, a sign of acceptance, and for some people a sign of safety with regards to any add-on that you obtain from a legitimate source.
Yeah, I can agree with that fully. My personal view on this, anyway, I know people focus on PvE quite exclusively when it comes to add-ons, but in PvP, so to speak, you know, with raid frames and visual cues that will pop up from certain add-ons, and you know, raid frames where you simply hover your mouse button over and it automatically heals, you know. Those are add-ons that actually help people become better, you know. It's basically faking skill. It's making someone seem a lot more competent than they actually are. I would absolutely 100% hate to see anything that augments a player's skill level in this game. A player's skill level should be something that is what you put into the game. You shouldn't be able to augment it with an add-on that you've just downloaded, and people shouldn't have to troll through 1,000,001 add-ons just to be able to fight someone else who has all of these add-ons, if you know what I mean. That is my key focus on this add-on issue.
I mean, I could go from having been a raid healer and a healer in PvP as well. So I played everything else as well, but mainly healer. That one of the things that I personally hate when it comes to having to raid heal and stuff like that. I know a lot of the heals in this game is going to be area of effect, but having to sit with your neck pointed over to the left side of the screen and pressing stuff instead of actually looking at the screen. I prefer having all of my stuff centralized. And I know that it's not exactly what you had in mind, but I know with the raid frames and stuff, I remember from WoW where you could just press and bind abilities to your mouse buttons and press it so it would heal. I would agree you could take that out, so you had to press the key on the keyboard, but actually having the ability to centralize your raid frames, I think is essential for a lot of raid healers in order to do it well, and that would automatically carry over in PvP as well.
But that's
On
what
that
most
note,
of... Sorry?
Go ahead, Fox, finish.
That's what most of the macros are for. The problem is, if any of us get into the 40-man raid test now, they're going to be looking at and balancing the content on what we do, on what their dev teams have done. They're not going to be taking into account add-ons that are months down the line that are going to all of a sudden make everyone react half a second quicker or make kills land a second quicker. It's going to make the content easier than it should be.
Yeah.
There's a terrible
Perfect.
opportunity for us to go in and like mess all this up, and like if people get selected and we're all just terrible in the game. Can't take
Yes.
them both too easy.
Guys, I'm gonna have to cut it off. We are at the 2.5-hour mark now. This is going to be the end of our first EU Town Hall for Wildstar. Just before I go ahead and do the outro, I'm going to pass it over to Pseudonym. She wants to make one last comment.
Yes, for those who had not had a chance to participate or watch yesterday's NA town hall, a couple of podcasters, a couple of websites in the community section had mentioned the fact that they are more than willing to dedicate time in their shows to people who would want to, say, advertise their guild or perhaps RP community things. So if you're looking for other avenues to build your communities, do make certain you look out and reach out to the people who are involved. If you need to just review the show from yesterday, the North American one at the start, it's pretty much early in the conversation.
How about we think about doing some sort of worldwide community-run guild spotlight?
Well, those things I believe you can discuss with those individuals, or if you would like to move into the forums and discuss ideas that you have, perhaps get together. Like we have a couple people who have already agreed to get together to discuss EU-based gaming tonight. Perhaps that's a good way to do it.
Exactly. So, you know, big thing, I highly encourage you guys, again, like I've said 3 times now, take this back to the forums with you, expand on threads that already exist, create new ones if you need to. You know, we've planted the seed for a lot of good things, so let's expand on that. And, you know, I heard someone say, you know, enough talk, let's materialize these ideas, and that's exactly what we're looking to generate from these meetings. I'm going to drop a link in chat for you to leave your feedback regarding this event. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and we could use that feedback to improve on this. This is, you know, something very new to us. So, and also it's anonymous, so don't be shy. You know, be frank if you want to. We just need that feedback. Thanks again for joining us. It's been pretty good. Definitely some very interesting ideas that have been tossed around. Feel free to stay on after I'm done talking here. It's going to be kind of open mingle, so you can talk about whatever you want. Those who need to go can go. And you can share links, network, do whatever you need. I'm about to post the link.